We're just so
welcome.
excited to have you here. And as Kate said, please have some pen and paper nearby. So if you have a question, you can jot it down, and we might do some reflective writing also. And we are still having lovely people join us, so I think we'll give it maybe one more minute. Kate?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, we had something like 85 people register. Don't expect everyone to show up in real time, but we will share the recording with everyone. So that's really helpful to sort of have this on the record. And
hey guys, how's it going? I'm sorry, I'm just introducing myself. I'm here in New England. So the spirit of America, I guess, but I don't know if it's, I don't know. It's interesting these days, but
so. All right, welcome everyone. Thanks, David. Good to welcome you all today. So I'm just going to start with a very brief summary of what exactly pro-social spirituality is. Pro-social spirituality invites groups to explore what they need to thrive. By co-creating an environment of trust and openness, together we make space for important questions and inner wisdom to emerge. Our programs are built on two sets of principles: Wayne Teasdale's 9 Elements of Interspirituality and Eleanor Ostrom's 8 Cultural Design Principles. We also engage in a range of contemplative practices as well as tools from contextual behavioral science. So as we explore these methodologies together, group members become more adept at noticing what's happening from both the inner and the outer perspective. We hope that this helps them move toward their goals, connect with one another, and address any challenges they may face. We use poetry and music and lots of opportunities for personal reflection and group sharing as a way to enhance our gatherings, which are, we hope, meetings of both heart and mind. So we're currently offering programs tuition-free, thanks to a generous grant from the John Templeton Foundation. So that's inviting small groups to engage in conversation about becoming co-creators of this experiential collaborative research initiative. Would love to talk with you about groups you're involved in, and would also like to invite you in as individuals into our community at ProSocial World. So at the end of the call, we're going to invite people to unmute and converse with one another. We're going to be connecting with one another in breakout groups throughout the call. But in between, we ask for you to keep yourself muted, if you would. I'd like to introduce myself briefly, and then my wonderful colleague here. I'll introduce myself in the same way we'll invite you to introduce yourself to one another in just a few minutes. That is by sort of sharing where we are and something we'd like others to know about ourselves. So I am Kate Sheehan Roach. I am zooming in from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, USA. I serve as the director of the Spiritual Communities Initiative at ProSocial World. I'm an editor and a historian by training, but by nature, I'm an animal lover. Whoops, somebody needs to mute. I'm an animal lover and an outdoors person. And I'm, let's see, last thing I can share about myself that you might not know is I'm planning to attend the Parliament of the World's Religions in Chicago in August. So I'm really excited to be finally getting back together with real human beings in person. So introducing a real human being, my colleague, Susan Soleil.
Hello, everyone. I'm so happy to be here with all of you. My name is Susan Soleil, and I live in Salt Lake City, Utah, in the United States. It's an intermountain state. We have the Rocky Mountains running through the state, and it's really beautiful. And for that reason, I'm kind of a mountain gal. Love to hike in the mountains, and I get to see them out my window, and I look at them all the time and really appreciate them. I also love plants and animals, and I too will be at the Parliament. I also have the great honor of working both for ProSocial Spirituality and for the Charter for Compassion. So I feel like I have like the best job in the whole world because I get to play in both sandboxes. So I'm just happy to be here.
Where is the Parliament taking place? Is that in a different country?
It's in Chicago this year.
Oh, okay.
Every 3 years, and it's in Chicago in August.
Okay.
All right.
Midwest.
Yes. Yes. All right.
Am I supposed to go next or what? I don't know.
You know,
Go ahead.
We're going to be putting everyone in breakout rooms here shortly, so you can each get to know a few people here in this group, because we weren't sure when 85 people register, you don't know how many people are going to be here. So we're going to be putting you in breakout rooms in just a minute. So you'll get to know a few people here. Okay.
Can I just, I was just going to say about Philadelphia. Because Kate, you're from Philadelphia. So that's the original stock. It's where the original stock exchange was. I feel like so many people don't know that. Anyway, it's just, I feel like it's, yeah, really people don't know that because it was the 19th century that Manhattan, that's when like the stock exchange was moved there, because, Philly and Boston kind of, Philly kind of.
Thanks so much, David. I love Philadelphia, but we're here to talk about pro-social spirituality today. So we're on tight timing, and we got lots and lots of folks here. So you'll get your chance to share. But in the meanwhile, we're gonna start. We're gonna invite you in to pro-social spirituality the way we do it with groups. So I'm gonna invite Susan to do that with something we love to do. And invite you all to join in to this practice.
And it's we're going to do this by sharing a poem and then a minute of silence. So this poem is called The Blessing of Faces by Adon Salvary. It's also called the Zoom prayer. And many of us spend so much time on Zoom that this is a great blessing. So if you could, and you're comfortable, if you could take your camera and turn it on just for this, I'll read the poem, and then we'll do 1 minute of silence and have it on view so you can see everybody's face. And then just look at everyone as I read this, please. The Blessing of Faces. So many beautiful faces. So many radiant souls shining forth into our hearts. Look at those eyes. The smiles, the hopes, the fears, the yearning, the questioning, the compassion, the love. Take it in. Take it all in. The tenderness, the humanity, the blessing of faces arrayed before you, the blessing of faces given and received. I put myself on mute. Sorry. Thank you, everyone. There are two more faces that we want to introduce you to. One is Eleanor, and the other one is Wayne. Their work lives with, or their work is alive with us in ProSocial Spirituality. I love the quote by Lynn. She is Eleanor, but she goes by Lynn. Little by little, bit by bit, so much good can be done on so many levels. And then Brother Wayne Teasdale, the Catholic monk and Hindu, who's best known for coining the term interspirituality in his 1999 book, The Mystic Heart. And his quote is also fabulous. We've been given the gift of life in this perplexing world to become who we ultimately are, creatures of boundless love, care, compassion, and wisdom. And just quickly, Eleanor Ostrom really worked to dismantle the theory of tragedy of the commons with her work that showed that groups working together in great collaboration can actually protect the commons. And so those are two people that I wanted to bring into our Zoom room today.
So when often we talk about Eleanor Ostrom being a Nobel laureate. She won the Nobel Prize in economics. She was the first woman to win the Nobel Prize in economics. She was actually a political scientist who her work is really foundational to ProSocial World. For those of you who are coming to us knowing about ProSocial World, you already know Eleanor Ostrom. Wayne Teasdale is very well known to people in the interspiritual communities as one of the founders of the Parliament of the World's Religion, someone who was really an outlier, really 50 years ahead of his time in seeing how unity would come together. But it's just funny when we bring them together on screen here, we say, you know, here we have a Nobel laureate social scientist and a Hindu Christian monk, and it just sounds like one of those beginning of a, you know, walked into a bar joke. Like, how could a Nobel laureate and a spiritual outlier, like this just sounds, you know, sounds funny, but really this unlikely pairing of people captures the essence of what we're all about in ProSocial Spirituality. This combination of Eleanor Ostrom's research-based cultural design principles that we call the 8 CDPs, and Teasdale's aspirational, we call them the interspiritual elements, but we also call them the 9 elements of interspirituality. This coming together of these two wisdom streams represents a unification of science and spirituality that we think just might be one of the greatest hallmarks of 21st century cultural evolution. So ProSocial World's founders and co-developers, some of you may know them, evolutionary biologist David Sloan Wilson, who worked closely with Eleanor Ostrom, and our wonderful colleagues, Paul Atkins and Robert Stiles, who are contextual behavioral scientists, as well as interspiritual pioneers like Jeff Janung and Diane Burke, who each have recognized that perhaps this combination of Teasdale and Ostrom we may be onto something here. If we can bring these two together, what will happen? What will come through? So that's why we're engaged in a research initiative where we're inviting groups to come together and see what happens, see if they can thrive by looking both inwardly and outwardly and applying that which we've learned from Eleanor Ostrom and Wayne Teasdale and all of contextual behavioral science and evolutionary biology and what we're learning as interspiritual pioneers ourselves. So here's where we're going to create some breakouts, because really what this is all about is you. None of this exists without participants. It's a co-creative collaboration where we want to invite you in to get to know one another. We're about to launch a community on our website where you can engage more fully with one another. We're going to be present at the Parliament of the World's Religion, so we'll be there in person, offering 4 different workshops over 4 days. But right now, we lament that we're doing all the talking. We want you to get to talk, but we can't all talk at once when there's 80 of us on the screen. So we're going to break out into triads where you can get to know 2 other people on the screen, sort of in the same way that Susan and I modeled. Just a minute. if you can't go longer than that, or once again, we'll run out of time. So introduce yourself to a couple of people on this Zoom screen, just like the poem that Susan shared did, you know, honoring the ability to look each other in the eye and truly listen to one another and acknowledge one another and the gifts that each of us bring. So Susan is the breakout director. She'll be helping with the timing and instructions on exactly how to do things.
Thank you. So you'll be in groups of 3, and each one of you will speak for 1 minute, not interrupted. And if everyone will just listen deeply to the to that one person speaking, and then I'll send a little timer that it's been 1 minute, switch to the next person for a minute, then switch to the next person for a minute. Hold your questions till the last minute. So at minute 4, then you can ask each other questions. Oh, my aunt lives where you live. But hold that so that that person will have 1 uninterrupted minute until that 4th minute. So look for my prompts. And there are 2 people that will actually stay in this room with Kate. So if you don't get invited somewhere, you'll be staying here. Breakout rooms are open. Please look for my prompts on timing. Thank you.
Thanks, Susan.
So David and Ashley, you're here, you're here. David Markham is here. David Wise, did you not you're in room 2.
Okay.
Okay, can you see? Perfect. Do you need the invite again, or are you okay? And let's see, Margot, where are you? Margot, you're in room 1. Can you see that invitation? Margot's going to stay here with you, and I'll go to room 1.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, terrific. I've already introduced myself a bit, so I don't have to say much, but I'd love to invite you, Ashley, to start with just a minute about yourself.
Okay, thank you. So I'm Ashley Fuller-Rubin, and I am here in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada. And I'm currently a master's in consciousness studies student at Centers for Spiritual Living at the Holmes Institute. I'm on the path to becoming a minister for Centers for Spiritual Living. So spirituality is a beautiful, meaningful to me, and also community is as well. So I'm very interested. I'm completely new to this topic, and I'm very intrigued. I love animals as well. I've always had animals and plants and flowers, and I'm also an end-of-life doula and also a performer. So, but I come very interested in groups working together beautifully and harmoniously, and there's my minute. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you, Ashley. How about you, David? Oh, I'm sorry, David, you're still muted. Sorry.
I'm David Markham. I'm in Western New York between Rochester and Buffalo. I'm 6 miles from the north coast of the United States on Lake Ontario, 40 miles from Toronto as the crow flies across the Great Lake of Ontario. And I don't know what to say. I'm a licensed clinical social worker. I've spent my whole career in mental health and substance abuse. I continue to work in my private practice. And one of my latest, well, it's been an ongoing interest, but, you know, I was trained, as most social workers were, in the biopsychosocial model. And I've added spiritual to that as well as other people. So it's biopsychosocial spiritual. And I've gotten very interested in spiritual intelligence, reading Ken Wilber and Cindy Wigglesworth. And I like Cindy Wigglesworth that it's a skill-based model she has. And her attempt, of course, was to try to create spiritual intelligence that could be measurable. Other psychologists have stayed away from it, like emotional intelligence and IQ, because they don't have indicators to measure, but Wigglesworth has tried to do that. And it's my belief that human functioning has a lot to do with our level of spiritual intelligence, and how do we work on that as individuals and with groups and in society.
Wow. Wow. I can imagine this is a full conversation. And welcome, Angel. We're in a great breakout room right now, introducing ourselves. We just have a minute left. So if you'd like to, Angel, you can introduce yourself. And we'll have other opportunities our same group will come together again later in the hour. So please take 30 seconds to introduce yourself, Angel.
Hi, sorry to be late. I'm contacting from London in the UK. I wasn't expecting to come into a breakout room. I thought it was a seminar. So I'm just very interested in the ProSocial and spirituality. And I hope to maybe enjoy and be able to contribute in this afternoon.
Fantastic. Thank you, Angel. Okay. We're going to be going back into the full room again in just a few seconds. The idea here was to get to know a few people, and then we're going to do an exercise together later in the hour as a way to sort of get a taste of what ProSocial Spirituality is about. I'll just reintroduce myself to you, Angel. I'm Kate Sheehan Roach, and I'm the Director of Spiritual Programs for ProSocial World. So this is our chance to sort of come out. We've been germinating underground for a while, and we're ready to start sharing our programs with groups around the world. So it looks like we're being drawn back into the larger group, and I'm really happy to meet all of you.
Nice to meet you. Yeah.
Hey guys, start from Georgia. Was just talking about Nick Carter, about them a lot. Talked about radical love, Jesus Christ and radical love. So, like he's been accused of, I'm a Jew. He's been accused of anti-Semitism. I don't see his anti-Semitism. I love President Carter. I love Jesus Christ. So anyway, that's where I'm at.
Thanks, David. All right. Good to come back together as a full group. I hope you enjoyed meeting a couple of people, a couple of our friendly faces here on the Zoom room. Those same groups are gonna come back together again later in the session. But in the meanwhile, we're just gonna try to give you a taste of what ProSocial Spirituality is all about. In order to do that, we want to share with you a little bit about the 9 elements of interspirituality, and also the core design principles from ProSocial World. Let me just share my screen so you can see the 9 elements while I talk. And just take a look at them. You'll see that these are pretty lofty, aspirational ideas. This is not something you can learn in a week or 2 weeks or 2 months or 2 years or maybe 2 lifetimes. These are some of the goals of mature spirituality is what they are. We're actually going to dig into them later as part of our exercise, so I'm not going to spend as much time here as on the 8 core design principles, because we're going to get into this further. But this is sort of the stream coming from Wayne Teasdale that's looking at lifelong aspirational ways of life. We also have Lynn Ostrom's
this one.
Share the screen with you. And I'll let you, Susan, walk through Eleanor Ostrom's 8 core design principles.
Oh, what I really like about ProSocial Spirituality is it weaves together the spiritual and the intellectual. And these core design principles, if you think about any group that you're a part of, some team, a work team, or a book group, or a neighborhood watch, if you think about that as I read these, you might see, oh yeah, we do a really good job with that. We might be able to improve there. But she realized, observing hundreds of groups of people that were actually protecting the commons, that they had these in common. One is a shared identity and purpose. They also had fair distribution of contributions and benefits. Everybody benefited in a fair way. They also had a fair way to have decision-making, and it was inclusive. They could also monitor their own behavior, and it was agreed upon. They could also share with others when they were having helpful or unhelpful behaviors. There was a process for that. And like all groups that function well, there was conflict resolution that was fast and fair. And then the last two really deal with how they are with other groups. Do they have the authority to self-govern? And do they have appropriate relations with other groups? And groups that had these things in common were more likely to really protect the commons and function well and get a lot done. That's deep collaboration right there.
So that's just a quick whirlwind through those, but we want to dig a little deeper. Really, deeper is the name of the game at ProSocial Spirituality. We don't like to rush. We like to take our time. So this is really just a taste of what it would be like to combine these 9 elements of interspirituality with these 8 core design principles. Our goal in doing this is to access deeper levels of thinking and being that, like I said earlier, engage both the mind and the heart, because we believe, we hope, that this is where real change happens. Anyone who's ever made a New Year's resolution knows how difficult it is to change. If it's just an idea that you don't take to heart, chances are you're going to go back to your previous habits. Whereas when you have a change of heart, we're looking at transformation. So that's the idea. One of Wayne Teasdale's 9 elements talks about contemplative practice, the idea of having a daily practice, whatever that may be. It may be a walk in the woods, it may be deep meditation, it may be a musical practice, it may be a journaling practice, whatever it is, but the dailiness of it, Wayne Teasdale saw was very important. And so we engage in that as an experiment, as part of ProSocial Spirituality. We invite groups for the time that we're meeting together, and different groups meet for different spans of time, but our current group has 10 sessions going. So over the course of these 10 sessions, whether that's 10 weeks or 20 weeks or however many weeks, we ask our groups to actually engage in contemplative practice daily. We offer a variety of options. One is a breath practice that has a variety of choices of how to engage the body in slowing and deepening the breath. We have journaling practices. We have a receptive silence, the form of meditation we call receptive silence. We have a heart practice that is based on the Buddhist teaching of loving kindness, metta practice. We engage in that, but we give our participants a choice of what they do, as long as they do something in order to access the heart, access the inner life. So I'd like to talk about element 5. That's the one that Wayne Teasdale pointed out, the need for contemplative practice, a daily practice. This is really what sets this program apart from all of ProSocial World. This is if you're interested in sort of going into the what we do in ProSocial World, we do look inward and outward. If you want to go further into the inward, this is the way to go. So today here, we'd like to do a little bit of reflective reading with you. This is a method that was developed by Diane Burke, who is the founder of One Spirit Learning Alliance in New York City. She's actually the co-developer of ProSocial Spirituality, and she co-facilitates with Susan and myself. So she's her fingerprints are all over everything we do. But she created a method, or she fine-tuned this method of reflective reading, where it's not the same as the information gathering reading that we do most of the time. You know, if you sit down to read a newspaper or read a book, you're trying to access through the mind information. Reflective reading is an opportunity to move from head to heart and to actually absorb what is coming from this to me directly? What can I absorb from this short, usually a couple of lines, not a long passage, but it's just a short practice to really teach us how to lead, how to really be led into a particular passage. So we thought we would do this with the 9 elements today, is to just actually, you know, Brother Wayne never liked the phrase "kill 2 birds with 1 stone" because it was such a violence against animals. You know, he would say things like feed 2 birds with 1 scone. So we're gonna try to feed 2 birds with 1 scone here by actually practicing reflective reading with the 9 elements. Diane's method is to read the passage slowly several times. We're going to read it together twice. And the idea is to allow yourself a moment to respond to what you're hearing, to rest in it, and receive what it has to give you. It takes a little practice. We're used to a different type of reading. I guess that's why we call these things practices. They take practice to get good at it. To become a master, it takes a lifetime. But we begin by learning to notice if there's a phrase or a word that jumps off the page at us. Diane uses the word shimmers. So what shimmers for you as we read through this? So I'm going to ask you to experiment with us on this, to just allow us to, Susan will read it first, and then I'll read it. I'm going to share my screen, but just be very still. Take a couple of deep breaths. Sit yourself comfortably on your chair. Feel your weight on the chair or your feet on the floor, and just be receptive, if you would.
Element 1, actualizing full moral and ethical capacity. 2, living in solidarity with the cosmos and all living beings. 3, cultivating a life of deep non-violence. 4, living in humility. 5, embracing a regular spiritual practice. 6, cultivating mature self-knowledge. 7, living a life of simplicity. 8, being of selfless service and compassionate action. And 9, empowering the prophetic voice for justice, compassion, and world transformation.
Thank you, Susan. I'd like to read it again for you. Let your mind do what your mind does, and let your heart do what your heart does. Element 1, actualizing full moral and ethical capacity. Element 2, living in solidarity with the cosmos and all living beings. Element 3, cultivating a life of deep nonviolence. Element 4, living in humility. Element 5, embracing a regular spiritual practice. Element 6, cultivating mature self-knowledge. Element 7, living a life of simplicity. Element 8, being of selfless service and compassionate action. And element 9, empowering the prophetic voice for justice, compassion, and world transformation. If you have a piece of paper, jot down a word or two that shimmers for you, a word or two that jumps out at you. Just maybe one element. Don't have to take it all in at once. But look for the one thing that's asking for your attention. We'll just wait while you do that. we're going to go into breakout again with the same people we met in our introductory breakout. And we're going to get to share with one another in the same sort of uninterrupted way that we introduced ourselves to one another, what we want to share from this, what jumps out to us. We might continue to explore it a little bit by speaking it to listening ears that are not going to interrupt and ask you questions for 2 minutes each, and then we'll come back together. Susan will once again set up those rooms. She will set the timing and will prompt us for each 2 minutes, reminding us when to move to the next person, and then we'll come back together as a group.
All right, the rooms are ready. I'll send you off. A couple people have left, so if you end up with a room with 2 people, you have an extra few minutes, but watch for my timing prompts, and we'll see you all back shortly.
Thanks, Susan.
Thank you. All right. And David, Markham, and Ashley, you'll stay here. And Angel, let me assign you one.
Angel stayed with us the first
Oh,
time.
Perfect.
But David belongs in group. David Wise belongs in group 2.
Yes. All right. Then I think I'm going to jump to my meeting, and if you'll just get David over it. Oh, perfect. All right. Thank
Okay.
you.
Terrific. Thanks, Susan. All right. Well, who would like to share first from their experience with reflective reading of the 9 elements?
How many of us are in the room? I can only see one person.
Oh, you might need to put on gallery view. There's 4 of us here. There's Ashley Rubin, David Markham, Kate Sheehan Roach, and Angel Santos. So I'm not sure why you can't see us, but gallery view should show us all.
Yes, sorry. I'll try to do it as soon as possible.
Okay. Would you like to share about how that reflective reading was for you? What was it that jumped off the page for you?
I can do it, even though I can only see you and myself, but that's fine. If can other people see me and hear me?
Yeah, yes, you can. Thanks.
I mean, one thing that was interesting for me is that I just recently started something that is quite similar to this practice, the way I understand it, which is called Lectio Divina. I think it's, so it reminded me very much of it. So it allowed me to try to move into the state, and because I just started doing it, so I was somehow familiar, although as you say, it takes very long time. Anyway, so my experience, although it was quite brief and short, is that actually in terms of my heart, you call it like that, in terms of my feelings, it produced what I felt some anxiety that I will describe as ambivalence. By what I mean by that is somehow the dissonance between very much being attracted to it and feeling that it is something that is very worthwhile aspiring to and trying to do. And on the other hand, some anxiety about it's too demanding. I don't know if I can do it. And so it's sort of in the principles when they said about actualizing and empowering, those sort of words, which were telling me, well, there was the risk, I think, that I could hear them as a very demanding superego request of
Angel, that is perfect. Thank you. That is exactly, you're right. This is exactly what we do. And I want to just hold that for a second and thank you.
Okay.
And then move to Ashley, because we had a little let's move to you, Ashley, and you share the same about how, what came through for you in the reflective reading.
Well, I loved the guidance around that practice, because it allowed me to drop into my body and my heart so that I could really feel somatically what was jumping out at me, which was the word that really I could feel was was shimmering, was simplicity. That one really stood out to me. I loved the experience of hearing it read a second time so that I could drop more deeply into my body to really tune into what was jumping out for me, rather than just letting it, as you were talking about, or just listening for information. Was tuning into my heart and my soul for where perhaps I'm being called forward. Yeah, which was
Wow,
lovely.
beautiful, beautiful. Thank you so much, Ashley. I just want to hold that for a second and say, wow, both what Angel has shared and what Ashley has shared, really, I'm learning. I'd love to share, love for you to share too, David, if you're ready.
Well, I love the 9 inner spiritual elements. I've never seen them listed like that. And there was part of me that think I'm supposed to pick one of them or one thing that shimmers. I mean, it all shimmers. I mean, we could take any one of those and spend the rest of the day talking about it. But trying to cooperate with the request, the thing that stood out for me, I noticed in 3 of them, they used the word live, which I thought was very interesting. Live in humility, live in simplicity. And I forgot, the screen went away. I think the other one was, again, doing the daily practice or having a regular thing. But what struck me was, so much of religious has to do with beliefs and dogma and, text, which is where the authority comes from rather than personal experience. And what stood out for me was kind of it's one thing to talk about it, but you walk the talk.
Beautiful. I think we're going to get cut off now. I just want to say that you 3 are exactly where we could spend a whole year together. And I hope we get to connect again. We will reach out again and we will have opportunities. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Wow, wow. I don't know about your breakout group, but mine could have gone for an hour easily, maybe a week. There's so much we could delve into. That's the idea here, that this is just the beginning. This is the little taste. Diane and I used to joke when we first were getting together on creating this curriculum that we needed that little spoon they would give you at the ice cream parlor to just give you the taste, a little pink spoon, like you can't have a whole ice cream sundae, but we're just going to sample it. This is that little tiny spoon for today, but we hope you'll want to be part of this, especially now when we're forming. Really, you are your fingerprints, your DNA, your wisdom is what will shape pro-social spirituality. It's not something we are creating and marketing. It's something we're co-creating and exploring together. We have a program going right now called the ProSocial Spirituality, we call it PSAGE, but it's short for ProSocial Spirituality Active Group Engagement. That's the one that meets over 10 2-hour sessions. It's part of a research initiative, so we're learning as we go. We're learning how to improve our program, and we're also testing the efficacy of all of these ideas we have. We're also, like I mentioned, we're hosting workshops at the Parliament of the World's Religions. I'm curious to know if some of you are actually going to be attending the Parliament. I'm also curious to know if, just based on this tiny little taste you've had thus far, if some of you would like to be part of this. Would you like, do you already know, like, yeah, this is something I want to do? So I'm going to drop a little poll into the chat and invite you to answer those 2 questions. If I can find the chat. Come on, chat, where'd you go? Here we go. Here it is. So if you can, whoops, that's not the poll. Sorry, that is the high-low groups that I'll tell you about. Here's the poll. This is my very first poll, can you tell? So here are the questions. Can y'all see them? See them? Okay.
Should end up on your screen. It's not showing up for you, Carol.
It's under polls, not chat.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, don't look for this in the chat. It should be actually on your screen and you can just click. Yes or no?
Not for me. Well, I can't see it. But I'm doing it from my phone. I don't know if that makes a difference.
I'm also on my phone. If you go to more on the scroll to the far right-hand side, click more, and then there'll be a little.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Well,
Oh, excellent.
okay, thanks. I see it now.
Thank you, Edwin.
Yes.
See, this is how pro-social spirituality works. We're all in it together.
Yes.
Which principles were we following there? I think a
With
bunch of
solidarity with the cosmos
We-
and all of the universe.
we
Actually,
fed lots of
actually-
birds. Lots of birds got fed with that scrolling right there.
Indeed. Thank you. Well, and thank you for answering the poll. We're curious to know about you. We want to include you. We want to learn more about you. And as I did put in the chat, is the link to the high-low community. This is a platform that we're developing that will allow for lots of interaction. So we'd love for you to go to that link after we're finished today and see what you think. Check it out. See if you want to be a part of this, a community where you can set up a profile for yourself, reconnect with some of the people you may have met here today, and just be kept up to date on what we're doing. And you know, much of what we do is virtual, but there are opportunities to come together as well. And thankfully, as the COVID-19 pandemic is allowing, we are able to get together more. So we're moving in that direction. We've been able to do a tremendous amount on Zoom. We really do connect. We really do, through spiritual practice, through music, through poetry, through deep sharing, listening. We've been able to get through this together. And along those lines, some groups actually developed their own kind of theme song, their own favorite thing. We've got a little song here that a song with visuals that has come to be sort of an inspiration for us, and would like to just share it before we open up the screen for conversation. So this can be experienced as a spiritual practice as well. You'll see that the musician involved is really embodying the lyrics she's singing, and I hope they will embody for you. So feel free to just relax, enjoy the music, and then after that, we're going to open up the screen. Open up the microphone. So here comes Samara Jade singing a song called The Unseen Song.
listen to the silence till it was no longer silence, till it was filled up with birdsong that had been there all along, till it was filled up with birdsong that had been there all along. And I looked into the sunset till it was no longer sunset, till the sky grew darker and it filled on up with stars, till the sky grew darker and it filled on up with stars that were there all along. It was there all along. It was there all along. The underlying unseen song. And I stopped to smell the flowers till they were no longer flowers. They began to wilt and droop and develop into fruit that turned to seeds and back to flowers that had been there all along. And I searched the world for answers till they turned into questions that shone light upon the answers that had been there all along. They shone light upon the answers that had been there all along. Yes, they were there all along. It was there all along. It was there all along. The underlying unseen song. And the light obscures the darkness, and the darkness hides the light, and the stars are still shining when the sun is shining bright. Oh, how unimaginable, how many layers go unseen in this dream, in this dream. So much more than it seems in this dream, in this dream. So much more than it seems. And I felt into my sadness till it was no longer sadness, till it was filled up with fullness that had been there all along, till it was filled up with fullness that had been there all along. And I cut through my aloneness until I melted into oneness of the web of shining dewdrops that connects us all as one to the web of shining dewdrops that has been there all along. Yeah, it was there all along. It was there all along. Yeah, it was there all along. The underlying unseen song. The underlying unseen song. The underlying unseen song. And I spoke my words till they were no longer words, till they sounded no different than the song sung by the birds still sing even when they can't be heard. All of the symphonies get blurred into the colors of the world is turning, powered by the bird song that had been there all along. Yes, the great wave of bird song that had been there all along. Haven't you heard that wave of bird song that has been here all along?
Mm. Thank you. Thank you, Kate. I do love that song. Because the stars are shining. They're always there, even when we can't see them.
It's by coming together around music and poetry and sharing of ancient wisdom and current wisdom, current research data. I have to give a shout out to our research director who's out there on the Zoom screen. You know, that science and spirituality, the intellect and the emotions, tears and laughter, things we agree upon, things we disagree upon are all welcome in this space. So really what we're creating in ProSocial Spirituality is a space where all of this energy comes together and we move forward. We move forward in our own personal and collective evolution. So that's it in a nutshell. And we'd love to take some time now to hear from you. If you have questions, if you have something you want to share, because there's still a lot of you on the screen, I'd love for you to raise your hand and that'll put you in a queue. If you know how to do that on Zoom. If you don't, if you're on your phone and that's hard to do, just wave and I'll scroll around and find you. Looks like Carol knows how to work that. So I'm going to open it up to you, Carol.
Do you have a link that you can share with us for that song? I want to hear it again immediately.
I'll get it for you.
It's a beautiful, beautiful song. Thank you.
I pulled it off YouTube, so I'll send it to you.
Thank you.
In the chat. Yep.
Yeah, thanks.
And I did get someone messaged me and asked, is this religious? Is this a religious group? Which I think is a great question. Nice to clarify. Do you want to answer that, Kate? And then
Sure. I thought you were going to answer. I will answer it and say, nope. It's whoever you bring. It's like I said, it's the DNA of those who are present. So if you are a spiritual person, you bring your spirituality. If you are a religious person, you bring your religion. If you are a secular person, you bring your secular. It's absolutely who we are and nothing that we are projecting outward. We've chosen Wayne Teasdale's elements because of their scope. The idea is that they're not part of any one religious tradition, but they are, you know, he explored sort of the historic roots of the world's religions, but we interact with every possible belief system, and there's not an agenda as far as that goes. Thanks for that question. Whoever asked it. Looks like Catherine is in the queue. I think this works that way, right, Susan? That the person who raises their hand, they'll line up that way. So great. So Catherine, unmute yourself.
So thank you so much for doing this. It's really wonderful. And it offers exactly what I was looking for. So my question is, you talked about the 10-week program. I have a community of my own that would be really fun to bring this to. Is that a possibility, and how would that happen?
It sure is. Thank you. You want me to answer this one too, Susan?
You go. Yeah.
I'm on the edge of my seat. I'm so excited. The way we start out is we have 3 conversations with a group. We call it a 3-part conversation. And it's actually kind of a glimpse of ProSocial Spirituality. But in these 3 conversations, we decide together if the 10 weeks are appropriate. Because it really takes that kind of commitment. Like I said, we're going to be asking you to engage in daily practice. It's really, it's the 2-hour Zoom meeting and then the daily practice, and we have occasional reflections that we do. It's not like a full academic course load or anything like that, but it's more making sure that it's a fit for the group. And yes, I mean, it sounds like if this resonates with you, now is the time, because as I mentioned, we are under a grant from the John Templeton Foundation as part of a research initiative. So we're able to do this tuition free right now. So I have all of your email addresses. Because of this, we're going to reach out to you with that high-low link that I accidentally threw in the chat so that we can continue this conversation. So definitely. Thanks, Catherine. And Edwin, who saved us on the chat.
So I came to this group through ProSocial World, and I basically used Ostrom's principles to build my company, which is a platform cooperative. So it's a technology that's owned by its members. And we basically are just using Ostrom's principles as a roadmap for how to build cooperation in the staffing industry. And my reflection today, when we were reading through those 8 spiritual principles, is that I've got an opportunity in my professional life to be more authentic and representing my spiritual side in business. And I'm just wondering, is there any groups or any work that you're doing that start to combine these things, the business world with the spiritual side? And if not, I'm just an inkling. I think that this is valuable. There's been a lot of work in the business world around core values, the core values of an organization, but so many times it's kind of like greenwashing. It's actually not true, or people don't know how to implement values at an organizational level. So just putting that out there, that I just feel like there's a need or an opportunity to kind of connect with the business world.
Absolutely. Susan, do you want to speak to that, or we can invite you in too, Beth, if you want to share? Actually, I just want to introduce Beth, if I may. Beth Hawkins is our Director of Research, and she's engaged in everything at ProSocial World, along with Susan and myself and many others. I'm thinking of Exmond as a member of our team who is actually, his whole emphasis is on cultivating the business connection. He's the newest member of our team. So that you're right on target, Edwin. It's happening. But maybe Beth and Susan would like to share something.
I'll say something, and then Beth. I just want to say that I think what you said, Edwin, is right on. That yes, we have the 8 CDPs from Lynn Ostrom, but bringing in more of those 9 elements and the values, those deep values of nonviolence and mature self-knowledge, all of those things are so needed in our business world. In fact, maybe they wouldn't even call it business because it is busyness. Maybe they'd call it heartness or something. Like maybe we would engage in an entirely different way if more businesses were practicing those 9 elements. So I love that, and we're going to file that idea away. Thank you.
I'm thinking of people like Charles Eisenstein, who's been doing this for a while, and someone in the chat, Marilyn, popped in the chat that she's got some insight and is willing to reach out. And her email is there. So this is what we're talking about with the high-low group. This would be an opportunity for someone to make a statement about, what about this? And someone else can say, yeah, I've been thinking about that too. And that's synergy. That's the connectivity, the network that we're hoping to offer. So yeah, that's here in the chat, and then also on high-low, make a profile for yourself, and that's where we'll be gathering. I offered the mic to you, Beth. Do you want to add anything?
No, I don't. Thank you for introducing me. And I don't want to take up this precious time. I don't have anything to add to the conversation, to Edwin's question. I think Susan and Kate, you answered it perfectly. So I'll hand back to you. Thank you.
All right. Well, if anyone has questions about the research initiatives of ProSocial World, we're lucky to have Beth with us today. That's really sort of the underlying unseen song at ProSocial Spirituality, is that we're studying this. We're interested in giving these ideas the same quality of attention that we would give cancer research, or that we would give, and forming an academic program. It's worthy and kind of long overdue to be really conducting some significant research around what works, what helps groups thrive, what do groups need to thrive, what about individuals, how does spirituality impact the individual? Yeah, so let me again open up the mic. Doesn't have to be a question. You're welcome to just talk with one another, share what's on your heart.
So someone did send me something asking how this is different from regular ProSocial, which I think is good.
That is a good one. Do you want to answer that, or would you like me to?
You go. I'm asking the question and teeing them up for you.
I'm a historian by training, so I have to go back and share with you the history of this, that as ProSocial World was developing around Lynn Ostrom's core design principles, several different people from the interspiritual movement, Kurt Johnson being one of them, Jeff Junong being another, Diane Burke being another, they saw these 8 core design principles and they said, you know, these remind me of Wayne's work. And what would happen if we brought them to, and sort of unbeknownst to one another, they all sort of had this resonance. And so ProSocial Spirituality emerged out of this idea that what would happen if we brought these things together? And so we've been integrating this throughout ProSocial World. We are, you know, trying our best as an organization to do what we're offering to everybody else. So we're practicing these things together. We meet together in very open-hearted ways. We're trying to build the type of world within that we'd like to see on the outside. So in some ways, ProSocial Spirituality is ProSocial World. It's just who we are. But this specific program and the programs we're doing around this are engaging Wayne Teasdale's 9 elements as sort of a second stream, another stream that kind of converges with Lynn Ostrom's stream. And then we work very closely with Paul Atkins and Robert Stiles, who have these methodologies that really just, you know, blow the doors off of any organizational change we've ever seen before. It's really about accessing the wisdom within. And I know you've all been part of groups where you've had that moment where you finally feel heard and you're able to hear somebody else, but those are kind of few and far between. Our hope is that we're cultivating a culture that allows that to be the norm. So we're not there yet, but that's what ProSocial Spirituality is about. And so it's deeply connected with the studies of cultural evolution going on. David Sloan Wilson has been studying religious movements for decades. That's you know, his look at Darwinian evolution and the multi-level selection theory has been applied to cultural groups, and we're one of them right now. This group on the screen is that right now. We are a group. So I hope I answered that in my meandering way. But if we do a group together, we'll continue to answer it together.
Yeah, that was a great answer. I remember once, I think it might have even been Paul saying in a room that when you're together, even online, you leave just a little bit of yourself. So each of you have left a little bit of yourself here, and we hope we've left a little bit of ourselves and ProSocial with you as well, ProSocial Spirituality. I did have a question that came to me that asked, how different is this ProSocial Spirituality from when it very first started a year and a half ago? We have a couple of people that were part of that. And I just want to make sure that you understand we are all evolving. We evolve every course, every learning journey is different from the previous one because we learn from everyone. You all leave your imprint on whatever you are a part of. And the first ones really were designed as courses. And I think the next iteration, or is this version 4.0? I don't know how many times it's been rethought, but I think there's a lot more space for listening and for groups to come in and bring whatever issues they are, whether it's a 9-element issue or a CDP, and really work to come up with their own solutions to become a stronger, more collaborative, more loving team.
We also don't try to do it all at once. Big beginner's mistake on my part. The first time I ever put together a ProSocial Spirituality the pilot, which was actually with a group of friends, one of my friends at the end said that I was trying to shove 30 pounds of potatoes into a 10-pound sack. He's from Texas, that's how we talk. And I just thought, yeah, maybe that was too many potatoes to try to fit in the sack. So these 17 elements are a lot to cover. We let groups choose which ones they want to focus on, and we give the overview, but then we go deeper on the areas where the group leads. And that was an evolution. That was not a given. We tried to cram it all in starting out, and it was still wonderful, but needed to change. And I would say at ProSocial World, the ink never dries. as soon as something is written, be ready for it to evolve, because we are evolutionary, if nothing else.
Those are all the questions that came my way.
Yeah.
Any other questions or comments or insights or sharings? I'm going to share one thing. It was a Rumi quote that someone sent to me yesterday, and it's been circling around in my head, and I love it. And it's, be a lamp, be a lifeboat, be a ladder. And I love that image of being of service to each other, lighting the way for others, helping lift people up, carrying people on our backs when needed. So I'm just so pleased to be here and share that last little quote with you.
I see some connections in the chat that I'm so eager to follow up on with individuals. I'm happy to, we can connect with one another on Hilo, but we can also connect. Let me make sure that appropriate link is there in the chat that I attempted to share. Let's see if I can make sure you have the link to Hilo once again. Sorry, now I have the song in there again.
Okay. We will send you an email that will have the song. It will have all these links, and it will have a link to the recording. So you'll get everything. You don't have to worry about trying to save the chat. We'll wrap it all up. Kate's great about putting lots of great stuff, lots of potatoes in the email that will be coming to you.
Indeed. Well, thank you all. Oh, Steve's got his hand raised. What would you like to share, Steve?
So I and another participant, Donna, are on the team for the Charter for Compassion RISE sector, Religion, Interfaith, and Spirituality of Earth sector. And I'm wondering how you might see the Charter embracing pro-social spirituality, or how we can work together in the work that we do. And that might be, I think that would be an intriguing conversation to have.
Yeah, I love that idea. Let's make sure we set aside some time to talk about that, Steve.
Okay, sounds good.
All right, thank you.
And you just pointed out, Donna is someone we met in an earlier cohort. I didn't see her on the screen. Thank you I'm so glad you're here, Donna. Once somebody comes, there she is. Once somebody comes through ProSocial Spirituality, their family. So good to see you. I haven't seen you in months. It's ever changing, and yet we're all your fingerprints are on this, Donna. I think of you all the time. So thank you for being part of one of the earliest cohorts to come through.
Angel has a question or comment.
Oh, good, Angel.
Yes. Well, yes, thank you for organizing it. I find it that you are leaving enough of pro-social spirituality in me to feel stimulated by it and wanting to learn a little bit more. I was maybe just also sharing, I'm joining from the UK, from London, and part of my experience, also part of what I'm trying to do, is helping groups manage conflict, which I suppose is the other part of pro-social. We go together how to, and I do it with Extinction Rebellion, in which they are trying to, which sort of a movement about climate movement. So I was hoping that in a way, having the experience that can bridge two different worlds, and how can we help each other, that hopefully will go along with the principles of pro-social. That is how we relate to each other. So I'm quite happy that I joined this group today.
Gosh, thanks so much, Angel. I met somebody a year back that was part of Extinction Rebellion, and it's like I've learned more from you. I think we learned from each other. I would love to connect and hear more about what you've learned in your work, and yes, we'll be eager to bridge these worlds with you, and indeed conflict conflict resolution is an important part of our program. So thanks for your good work, and thanks for all of you for coming. Any last words before we sign out? We often check out with one word of how we're feeling. We like to kind of go around room, since we're over the time and it's just the last few people here. We like to check out with a word. So if you have a word to describe how you're feeling, mine would be grateful.
Oh, that was mine too. Okay, so I'll just say excited. Steve?
Thrilled.
Oh. Jim?
I would say inspired.
Oh, thank you. Gary? And your mic is off.
Still quiet.
Perfect.
Thank you. Carol?
Satisfied.
That's nice. Ken or Kenneth?
Present.
Oh, I like that. Angel?
Grateful and excited.
Excellent. Kathy?
Interested. And I'm sorry I missed so much in the beginning.
You'll get the recording.
Oh, wonderful.
Yes, thank you for being here. Donna?
Delighted.
Thank you. George?
Peaceful.
Great. And Beth, we're gonna end with you.
Well, Kate, you took my first one. Jim, you took my second one. I'll say full. I'm feeling this sense of fullness. There's probably a better word, but that's how I feel.
That's perfect. Perfect. Thank you all. We look forward to reconnecting and exploring this further with you. So glad to meet you all.
Yeah, we will.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Take good
Susan.
care. Bye-bye now.
Everybody.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you. Bye now.
Bye.